Asphalt Jungle was directed and co-written in 1950 by Mr. John Huston, responsible for other neo-noir greats, including The Maltese Falcon, Fat City, and Annie. Okay, maybe that one's not neo-noir, but still. He is cited as bringing neo-noir to American audiences. In The Asphalt Jungle, he is responsible for one of the first ever heist movies of which we're still getting today. Unlike most modern-day heist movies, the heist is not treated as the spectacle. But first, let's go to the beginning. And you, I shall call Adam. Okay, maybe not that far. The movie begins with one of our main characters, Dix. He's a tough guy wannabe gangster. Quickly, we learn that Dix, like many people in this town, is involved heavily in crime. Perhaps it's all he knows. This leads into the hidden crime forces of this town. The cops are dirty and failing. They know who the criminals are, but can't arrest them. One such scene shows a witness cop out of recognising Dix as a criminal. Perhaps the whole town is intimidated by these types of people, especially people like Dix, whom are regarded as hooligans and dangerous, even by fellow criminals. But perhaps that's all about to change. Just in time for the big score.
I don't want your opinion of the law.
The law!
Dix does his best caveman impression, and we're introduced to our main players. Owen Ryden Snyder, or Doc, the proposer, Gus Menezes, or Gus, the driver, Alfonso D. Emmerich, the money man, and Louis Ciavelli, the safecracker. There are also a few others. They plan a giant caper, attempting to rob Beltier's, a jewellery shop, for over $500,000 in jewels, and of course, it all ends happily ever after. Most modern heist movies try to make the heist seem really tense, adding in loud music, increasing pace, and try and make the heist itself the most memorable part of the movie. When this works, we end up with Mission Impossible. However, sometimes this can go too over the top, a la Fast and the Furious, and just have you yawning at the lack of stakes. The Asphalt Jungle, however, does not focus on the heist, spending at most 11 minutes on it, where most take up the whole second or third act. No loud music. It is gritty and authentic, and instead, the movie focuses on the aftermath of the heist and the repercussions, because, as you guessed, shit starts to go bad. It seems fate is not on their side, and Doc believes he made the perfect plan. As the pressure mounts, the characters are developed massively, each revealed to have sins and faults of their own. The money man's secretly broke, and is cheating on his missus with Marilyn Monroe. Oh yeah, did I mention Marilyn Monroe's in this? Well, only for 5 minutes. Very poor. It's like having Mark Hamill but only using him for 5 seconds. Oh, right. Or Dix, obsessing over gambling, inevitably leading to debt. You at least have some sympathy for him. Scenes later, he helps a friend who has no home, for no real reason except maybe company. The movie takes you in multiple directions, not always telling you exactly what the characters are going to do, but giving you enough time with them for yourself to work out their next move. This ensures that you will be at least a little surprised at some points. Take Dix, seeming like a simple hooligan, yet we're given time, and we tap into his loneliness and dreams. We see his troubled past, and perhaps how he came to be where he is today. This certainly makes the film a lot more interesting and rewatchable. None of the characters are particularly likeable. They're bad guys doing bad things, but they have fleshed out motivations, so you're with them and support them within reason. They're all interesting and you find yourself somewhat rooting for them. However, you're not surprised when fate finally comes creeping up on them. Sam Jaffe as Doc, Louis Calhern as Alfonso Emmerich, and Mark Lawrence as Cobby give the best performances of the film, at least for me. Their characters felt very realistic and each fully dimensional. For me, Sterling Hayden as Dix was a little bit wooden.
Don't bone me!
But perhaps that's just the nature of the character. It bothered me at first, but I got past it fairly quickly. The town is gritty and grey, looking as though it had been bombed.
Probably never been here in his life.
We are shown and told what a state it is in through its residents, from the buildings, like Gus's calf, looking run down, weary and boring, to the streets and alleys looking grim. The direction and story of the film are tight. There's no glaring plot holes. Perhaps the story's natural progression allows this, rather than trying to speed through it all. Houston manages to keep you engaged throughout, mostly through the ever-changing perception of the characters. Your opinion of them will change from the beginning of the film to the end. The characters are normally introduced in darkness, or their faces shown in strange angles, or obscured for a little while. There are a few messages I got from the film, one of which is the ironic notion that they completed the heist quite successfully, yet it is their individual sins which cause their downfall, their greed, their ignorance, their lack of panic, their perversions. More on this in the spoiler section. The second continues on from the name of the film, suggesting that the city is just a different kind of jungle, a more advanced one. There are still beasts, or beast-like people, who live there. We get this point of view as we spend some time with the police, the chief believing while the police will never be perfect, they're certainly better than nothing, and are certainly necessary, despite some failings. In terms of morals, I would say it's a cautionary tale movie. While we may not try and rob banks, the movie reminds us not to get greedy, and not to chase the unattainable. Dreams are fine, but don't let them lead to desperation. Louis Cavelli, the getaway driver, is forced into his role, set to provide for his new family. He has little other choice. Perhaps that is why the movie is so great, to me at least. The characters are not all bunched together, and the film doesn't force you to dislike or like any one of them. However, clearly, some are more hard to watch in their failings than others. The tone remains the same throughout the film, the ever-present doom threatening to explode onto the screen. The dialogue, realistic and sometimes funny, but suited to each individual character. In terms of music, there's barely any. Some played at the start, and some played at the end. Conversations with brief periods of silence, and scenes which are very quiet. Is this a missed opportunity? I don't know. But it would be very easy to ruin the realistic and tense scenes by putting in music, which doesn't quite fit.
And now we return to Movie BS, segregating Movie BS from Movie Truth. Today we evaluate whether and how likely it is that a gun would discharge when dropped. Is the answer?
Unlikely. The very event happens in the Asphalt Jungle, after a policeman drops his gun and one man is shot. I won't reveal who. It is of course possible, however it's much more common in much larger guns than a revolver. It's almost impossible, or should be, in films released past 1968, the year gun safety drop tests became mandatory, making this kind of thing almost impossible. Sorry, True Lies. However, this film was released in 1950. However, the few frames play out very gingerly. Arguably, the gun wouldn't have even be dropped to be pointing at the eventual victim. For me, it's just a moment that takes you out of the movie for a second. Perhaps even making you curse, oh fuck off. Well, thanks for watching folks. Join me next week whether we decide and find out whether or not Alvin and the Chipmunks have genitals. That's all for now on Movie BS. Each member of the doomed heist caper reaches their end. Louis Cavelli simply dies. Anticlimactic, but in the end, he probably suffered the least, which is fair. I really like the subtle foreshadowing of how each member will eventually be undone. Dix's illusion of returning to a better time, where he rode black colts and lived with his then alive parents, very much haunts him. Of course, this is his motivation, but after getting heavily wounded, he still pursues, eventually staggering down and dying at the place he would like to be, a different setting than we'd seen in the film to that point. Mr. Emmerich, the well-respected lawyer, professional, smart, yet his ill judgment and inability to let himself see disgrace and scandal, decides to kill himself in one of the more surprising scenes, much to the anger and dismay of Doc. Speaking of Doc, I find his end the most interesting. We see small patches of his eventual downfall. First, him looking at the naughty calendar. I mean, fair enough, who wouldn't? He mentions how he'd love to be in Mexico with lovely young ladies. But until his end, we never realise how much this tempts him. On his way to salvation, him and his cab driver stop at a bar. Entranced by a young lady, Doc gives her some nickels to listen and dance to some songs. He is arrested whence he leaves. At first I wondered if he wanted to get caught, perhaps the guilt of seeing the other members fail, and him growing tired of his occupation. He's giving out tips like it's going out of fashion. But no, he did not mean to get caught. His sin of perhaps being a pedophile, or at least loving young ladies too much, is his downfall. There was nothing he could do. An instant moment of sin was enough to end a lifetime of well-thoughtfulness. Ah, well played, Mr. Houston, well played. I'm a little mixed on the scene just before the ending, where Police Commissioner Hardy makes a speech about the merits of the police force. While I'm not against the message,
Don't tase me, bro!
It seems a little tacked on. We have already seen the desperation of men in the town and how it leads them to become beasts. We've seen the town dark and murky with barely any people about. And we've seen the police doing good and bad. So far, the police force have been shown fairly realistically, but now we get a speech commending them. It seems a little unnecessary to me. There are small character moments, including when Gus takes Louis home after he has been injured. He tries to comfort and lie to Louis' wife, barely holding back his own tears. These are small moments, while perhaps not entirely necessarily, certainly add to the movie and to this feeling of honour among thieves. Only Bob Branham gets screwed over by the heist crew. The rest try and maintain some dignity between themselves. Doc sparing Emmerich's life, even though he double-crossed them, is one such example. I think it's important to note that the first of something is not always the best. The Asphalt Jungle is one of the first ever heist movies. It is also one of the best, but it is often downplayed compared to 1955's Rafifi. Even today, many of the best films released use story beats, formulas, or arcs that have been used before. This does not make them bad just for that one thing. It's a lot harder to be 100% original. It's great to look at classic films which seem to discover new subgenres, but also to see how other films develop these subgenres and maybe better them.
What is it, Barnaby? I'm sorry, sir, but it was critical. The boys in the lab, they have invented a completely original story. Jesus Christ, that can't be! How are we gonna get people to see that? Get Feige on the phone, he'll know what to do.
Now what you do is you make all your movies have the same character arc. And remember, they all gotta look the same. Sorry, I got another phone call. Hello? No, I do not want to buy DC. I'm sorry? Boy, I don't even know what a dark universe is. I really enjoyed the Asphalt Jungle, as you can probably tell. It has grown on me more and more in the time since I watched it. It's slow, potentially boring to some. However, if you're unfamiliar with the neo-noir genre, or have only watched a few, the Asphalt Jungle would make a great starting point to divulge into this classic genre, which seems to have gone extinct. It's a good movie to introduce and induct you into this time period of movies and hopefully lead you to other neo-noir gems and more well-known movies. So yes, I believe that the Asphalt Jungle is a hidden gem, and one any budding film buff should give a chance. It won't be everyone's cup of tea, however it certainly deserves more exposure. So have you seen the Asphalt Jungle? What did you think? Will you now go and watch it? Let me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.